Weston.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. And it's a pleasure to follow the Honourable Member for Wrexham, who clearly has so much knowledge about the life and the services. Madam Deputy Speaker, today is an important day to pay tribute to our armed forces for their service and ultimately their sacrifice, for the conflicts they fought in, but the work they've done throughout the world to preserve peace, the work they've done to combat Ebola in Sierra Leone and other countries in doing such important civil work, not least here on our islands, indeed with COVID-19. Sunday was not your normal Remembrance Sunday, and it was important that we paid our respects, as always, to show our gratitude. And normally it would be an opportunity to meet with veterans, such as Len, Stuart or Paul, as I would have done last year, and talk about some of their experiences. Even Rusty, who's now getting very old, but one of our great gallant soldiers or airmen of yesteryear. In Warwick, normally we would see hundreds of people around the War Memorial, honouring the 358 men and one woman from Warwick who died in the Great War, and the subsequent 112 who lost their lives in World War II. The march past the War Memorial, the sound of the local bagpiper, Andy Wheeler, the last post paid by a bugler from Warwick School. And in Leamington, 550 names on the War Memorial from the First War, and many hundreds following in the Second War and subsequent conflicts. All courageous, all gallant. And among those names, the recipients of the Victoria Cross, Lance Corporal William Amy, Captain Arthur Kilby, Lieutenant John Cridland Barrett, and perhaps most significantly, Private Henry Tandy, the most decorated British private soldier of the First War, who in the space of 6 weeks in the autumn of 1918 was awarded a Distinguished Conduct Medal, a military cross, and the Victoria Cross. But I want to recognise in particular his near neighbours, just down Kenilworth Street from where he grew up. The Timms brothers, Fred, William and Jack, all lost in the same conflict. But I want to remember in particular their mother, Esther. So many families who lost so many. The strength of feeling was best illustrated by Warwick poppies in 2018. 62,500 hand-knitted poppies decorated our church at St Mary's in Warwick. And the scale of loss perhaps best illustrated by a map produced by the Leamington History Society that showed every household across the town who had suffered a loss in the Great War. It was virtually every house in those terraces in the centre of Leamington. Some of those houses had multiple stickers. That map showed how communities were literally decimated. So many towns and villages and cities, if they had maps, would show the same. And the Right Honourable Member for North Durham, who talked about the individual, that we should think about the individual. All of us will have lost family in those wars and subsequent conflicts. Relations perhaps in this country or from other Commonwealth nations, perhaps illustrated, if I may, by my own great-uncle Clark Duff, who in 1915 left the farm in Ontario, Canada, to fight in Flanders Fields, but would sadly never till a field again. We have much to be thankful for, and so many to thank. Those who served and made the ultimate sacrifice in subsequent conflicts. And I want to thank here the work of the Royal British Legion, particularly Tony Glover and Pat Edgington, for the extraordinary work they do in raising so much money locally. But also the work of other charities, the Help for Heroes, people like Michael Vallance and Charlie Sabin, and the Royal Air Force Association, Patrick Fitzgerald and Dave Brown. Finally, Madam Deputy Speaker, can we remember and think of all those who were left behind and who lost so much of their lives? I'm thinking of the families and loved ones, people such as Esther Timms, who I mentioned, for whom life can never have been barely worth living again. People such as those friends of my parents, all women. We referred to them as aunts, whose boyfriends never returned, and who would never marry, but would live with the loss all their lives. Madam Deputy Speaker, these are the people I wish to remember and to pay tribute to. Yeah.